Welcome to Good Burger Reviews. I have a very special presentation for you guys today as we're closing out the month of August and looking straight into Halloween season time. It is always the last day of August at sunset that I get into my Halloween spirit, mood, creeped out, just ready for the next 60 days of Halloween, especially this year since it's my first Halloween season having a YouTube channel. So welcome to Halloween time on Good Burger Reviews.
Oh, look.
But before we start celebrating Halloween, we've got to say goodbye to the summer and goodbye to the sharks and the shark movies.
Fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain.
And maybe by now some of you are all sharked out. I can never get sharked out because I love Jaws. But I thought, what a perfect time as we say goodbye to the sharks and say hello to Michael Myers to compare two of my most favoriteest movies. Jaws is my favorite of all time. Halloween is definitely in my top 10. And believe me, I knew that these two movies released 3 years apart, had some things in common. The franchises have some things in common. But when I really started thinking about it, there is a lot more that Jaws and Halloween have in common that I guarantee some of these you did not realize. Because to be honest, some of them I didn't realize until now. Now I've got 15 things. Now I'm going to break it down. Some of these things are like one-word sentences or just one-word things that are just things that I thought were pretty neat that the movies have in common. And other things we're going to get into, discuss a little bit. What I will say is the ones towards the front are ones that are well known. These first few, you guys definitely prior to you know, yeah, I knew that Halloween and Jaws had this in common, but we're gonna get through those first ones quick because the juicy ones I've saved for the way end, and I promise you the last two or three are gonna be a shocker. Number one, the directors. John Carpenter and Steven Spielberg both became big directors after starting these specific movies. So Steven Spielberg in 1975 released Jaws. It was his second film pretty much of all time, and this catapulted him into a major director status. And Jaws being one of the movies that, started the whole summer blockbuster ordeal and lines at the movies and giant profits at the box office. And John Carpenter only 3 years later released Halloween 1978. Now this was a lower budget Halloween movie and it wasn't expected to be that big. But boy, did Halloween turn the page in the horror field. And John Carpenter, this was basically his second film, which catapulted him into being a giant director and into a great career that was ahead of him after Halloween. Like I said in my video of the most influential horror movies, I said he made Halloween, but Halloween made him. And Steven Spielberg and John Carpenter had these movies to thank, and this is the first commonality between the two movies. For number two, the towns becoming iconic. So let's talk about Amity. Everyone knows Amity. That's where the sharks showed up and attacked. Now, Amity is kind of based off a real place, which is Edgartown, Maryland, which is where they filmed. And it is a New England town. And it is synonymous with the movie Jaws. It is a fictional town and does not really exist. But when you talk Amity, you know Jaws. And it's not to be confused with Amityville, which Amityville Horror was released in 79. People have confused those two, but know that they're different, because when I was young, I used to think they were the same place. And Halloween has Haddonfield, another town that is iconic for its movie. You hear the name Haddonfield, you automatically think of Halloween, and this is a completely fictional town, not anywhere specifically. Halloween was filmed in multiple locations, especially over the years throughout the franchise. It was filmed in different spots. However, Deborah Hill grew up in a town, Haddonfield, New Jersey. Now, Halloween Haddonfield is in Illinois. And we know it's kind of Midwestern Illinois because in the first movie there's a sign that it's like 400 miles to Chicago. Number 3. Both movies occur surrounding a specific holiday. Now, we'll start with Halloween on this one. Halloween, it's obvious. Halloween takes place on Halloween.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
And in all of the movies, it pretty much is on Halloween. Now, with Jaws, it is the 4th of July. At least in the first movie, it is based around the 4th of July, but it is actually, Jaws actually takes place over a few week period, but the main holiday that is themed in Jaws is the 4th of July.
You yell Barracuda. Everybody says, huh? What? You yell shark. We've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July.
Number 4, the musical scores. Extremely iconic, completely recognizable, and also giant contributing factors to the success of each movie. In Halloween, John Carpenter wrote the main theme to Halloween. And it's a very basic bum 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 bum. You know, these musical scores aren't complex, but they bring tension. And now, as one of these movies is 50 years later and one of them's close to 50 years later, they're synonymous with those creatures. When you hear that Halloween music, you think of the Halloween movie and you think of Michael Myers walking around in the neighborhood stalking the babysitters. And the same thing with Jaws. John Williams wrote the score to Jaws, another very basic theme. Ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, 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 and so forth. Now, Jaws' music gets a little bit more complex throughout the whole movie, but the main theme is iconic and synonymous with Jaws and synonymous with sharks, pretty much. All right, number 5, the sequels. Both sequels were released 3 years after the original release. So Jaws was released in 1975. Sequel Jaws 2 was released in 1978. Halloween was released in 1978, and the sequel was 3 years later in 1981. Now, both movies have their franchises. Now, when it comes to Jaws vs. Halloween, the franchise overall, Halloween kicks Jaws' butt. Because Halloween has a total of 13 films within the Halloween collection, whereas Jaws only has 4, and only the first 2 are really beloved. And the 4 are probably beloved by true Jaws fans, but I could admit, even as someone who likes Jaws 3 and Jaws the Revenge, that they're kind of, stinkers. And Halloween has its stinkers as well, but there's lots of other prominent movies within the 13 that do well. It did well at the box office, and Halloween is still prevalent today. And look out for my video coming out before Halloween comes to an end, where I discuss all the sequels in Halloween and what they need to do to fix the fact that the Halloween franchise has kind of been on repeat for almost 50 years, and what they should do by 2028 to solve that problem, to put Michael Myers on a new but yet familiar path so the fans are super psyched. So look out for that one coming to Good Burger Reviews, probably in October. Okay, number 6. Each villain in each movie was nicknamed a separate name throughout the filming and writing and script processing of the movies, but never was referred to as these nicknames within the films. Jaws. Steven Spielberg named Jaws, the actual mechanical shark in Jaws, Bruce. And this became iconic. It became something that the people knew and people liked. Finding Nemo named their head shark Bruce in honor of a nod to Jaws, like a behind the Hollywood stage nod to Jaws. If you remember this guy, Bruce.
Dory, are you okay? Oh, that's good.
Now, in the script of Halloween, Michael Myers was initially referred to as the Shape, and he's credited, now within the movie he's never called the Shape, he's never referred to as the Shape, but he is credited as the Shape. And John Carpenter wanted to refer to him as the Shape to keep it more ominous amongst the cast and amongst the crew, and more giving it a mysterious and evil sense within the people working on the film, so that they would respond to Michael Myers in a certain way. And over the years, all of us diehard Halloween fans have come to refer to him as the Shape in some scenario. Alright, for number 7, I gotta use my notes. Iconic and minimalist villain, and the meaning behind that. And this was a tactic that both directors used in their films when portraying their villain. The iconic and minimalist villains, the menacing presence of the shark, often unseen but felt, and Michael Myers' silent mask persona are both instantly recognizable and deeply unsettling. Both films excel at building tension and dread, emphasizing what you don't see rather than relying on heavily use of jump scares. The fear of a hidden threat and lurking beneath the surface is central to both narratives, and both of them became effective at using the POV shots to place the audience in the shoes of the predator, increasing the sense of vulnerability and fear. And this one is one that really helped define each director as they became masterclasses in cinema. And some of this use you see in some of their other films that they have released since these two early films of theirs. In the case of Jaws, it was like the shark wasn't working, so Steven Spielberg had to rely on other ways to draw up that tension and suspense within the movie, and he was a masterclass at it. Jaws is a masterpiece when it comes to dread and tension. And Halloween, it's the same thing. Now, Jaws came first, so I wonder if John Carpenter maybe watched Jaws and kind of said, yeah, let's take what I learned here and blend it into my serial killer movie. Now, I don't know that for sure, but it obviously is the same thing going on with the dread, the tension, the Michael Myers not being full front and center, especially in the majority of the front end of the movie. The use of lighting, the use of shadows. I mean, all the cinematography in both movies, even though in Halloween it's a little bit simpler, these movies excel in these areas. This is great craft that the directors do to make each movie super successful. And, one thing about Halloween, the whole beginning is very bright and light, and as the movie progresses on, it gets darker and darker and darker, and the way end, it's like very dark, and it's night. Jaws has an overnight scene, but the end is in the daytime. Number 8. They both refer to each other at some point within their franchise. Now, what do I mean by that? So, in Halloween Resurrection, Buster Rhymes refers to Michael Myers as a killer shark. He calls him a killer shark. Roll the clip.
Michael Myers is not a soundbite, a spinoff, tie-in, some kind of celebrity scandal. Michael Myers is a killer shark. Baggy-ass overalls. He gets his kicks off of killing everything and everyone that he comes across.
In Jaws 3, Dennis Quaid, who plays Michael Brody, refers to the shark as a murderer. And sharks can't truly be murderers. They're following the natural food chain and they're, towards the top. And they really can't be seen as murderers. But when Michael Brody calls the shark a murderer, he's looking at it as if it is a serial killer. Roll the clip.
White sharks are killers. I know them, for God's sakes. My father, my brother, myself. They're murderers.
In essence, both movies kind of nod off to each other within the franchise. Neither of these cases are within the original movie. Number 9, influential and iconic status. Both movies were extremely influential in their subgenres. Jaws. Jaws is the go-to movie for sharks. I've just spent almost half the summer filming shark reviews, filming top 10 rankings, and demonstrating how well the shark genre is influenced by the original OG film, Jaws. That literally the cinema has been flooded, and the streaming services and Blu-rays and VHS have been flooded with shark movies. I don't know. I honestly can't think of another creature out there. And there's some creature features, spiders, birds, bats, dinosaurs, I'm trying to think, is there another creature out there that has more features than sharks? Because the sharks definitely seem to be in the lead. And when it comes to Halloween, even though it's not the first slasher or the first of its exact kind, because of the way its success it was and because of its timing and everything, it became known as the OG slasher film, the one that started it all, the one that started the slasher craze. Even though Halloween was released in '78, the slasher craze became more popular and well known throughout the 1980s and is still going on today. I mean, slashers are a big thing. And you have the big three from the 80s, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and Freddy Krueger. But remember, it was Michael that came first, and Freddy and Jason kind of followed in those footsteps. Number 10, both iconic villains spend most of their franchise stalking the same family, especially throughout the sequels. Let's talk Jaws first. The Brodies. 4 movies, every movie has the Brodies. The first 2, Jaws 1 and 2, you have Martin, and then in the sequels you have the sons and his wife. I think of Jaws the Revenge primarily where Ellen is like super convinced that the shark is after her family, specifically, i.e. the Revenge title.
Mom, why did you take the boat?
It kept
Did you
coming.
realize what you were doing?
I had to do it. There was nothing else to do.
Mom, you shouldn't have done it.
I tried to tell you. I tried.
And just a little tidbit, I'm not counting this as a separate one, but the Halloween 5, which is the 4th movie featuring Michael Myers, is also The Revenge. Now, when it comes to the fact whether or not Michael's been stalking his family the whole time, I will put it to you this way. For the majority of the sequels, which is pretty much the first 4 timelines, it is established after Halloween 2 that Laurie Strode is Michael Myers' sister. And in subsequent sequels like Halloween 4 and 5 and 6, Jamie Lloyd is his niece. So in all of the early films, he is stalking someone that is blood related to him. Now, in Halloween 2018, they decided that they wanted to screw the family ties and say, let's just go back to basics and not have the family. But when what they did was they spent their entire trilogy focused on Michael Myers versus Laurie Strode. So you still had that same feeling like he's been stalking the same person the whole time. Now here's another one, number 11. Now we're starting, I think these ones are kind of the nuggety ones, the surprises. Halloween and Jaws, the same kill counts. Now in this one, I'm just comparing the original two movies. In Halloween and in Jaws, there are the same kill counts. There are 5 deaths in Halloween and 5 deaths in Jaws. And more in common than just that is 4 of the deaths are on screen and 1 is off screen. I.e., Jaws, Chrissy dies on the beach. Then Alex Kittner dies on the beach as well, on the raft. And then you have Ben Gardner's death, off screen, but body found by Matt Hooper later. Then you have the estuary guy, the guy on the boat near Mike Brody before the final act. And then, of course, Quint. And the kill count on Halloween, you have the opening death of Judith. And you also have then the mechanic that dies while he's traveling to Haddonfield. And then you have Annie, Bob, and Linda all pretty much in the tail end of Halloween. Same kill count. 5 people, 1 off screen. Number 12, The Dogs. So, I figured I'd put this one after the kill count. Michael Myers deals with a dog, Lester. So when Annie is babysitting little Lindsay, you know, the dog is barking while she's on the phone with Jamie Lee Curtis, and she's calling the dog out, Lester, Lester, you know, get the dog Lester away. And, you know, you see the dog in one part of the scene, and then all of a sudden the dog stops barking. Dog's gone. The dog's dead.
Lindsay, Lester's barking again and getting on my nerves again. Oh, never mind. Guess he found a hot date.
And in Jaws, right prior to Alex Kittner's death on the beach scene, you have a young boy playing fetch with his dog, throwing a stick into the water, and you see the dog barking and running around. And then shortly after, as Alex is getting ready to go swimming, and Michael and his friends are ready to go swimming as well, you see this young boy off to the side calling, Pippet, 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 where's Pippet? And then shortly before Alex's death, all they show is the stick floating, signifying that the shark got the dog.
Pippet! 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 Come on, Pippet! Pippet!
I had to say, rest in peace, Lester and Pippin. Number 13, iconic speeches by main characters. So in Jaws, Robert Shaw, Quint, has his Indianapolis speech where he talks about his experience on the Indianapolis when it sank and fighting off sharks for 4 to 5 days in the water, and how he dealt with the sharks and how he felt about the sharks. And within the speech, he refers to these sharks as most frightening.
He saw us and he come in low, and 3 hours later, a big fat PBY comes down and start to pick us up. You know, that was the time I was most frightened, waiting for my turn. I'll never put on a life jacket again. So 1,100 men went in the war. 316 men come out, the sharks took the rest.
And subsequently in Halloween, Donald Pleasance gives off somewhat of a similar speech. Now it's a different story, a different character, but he talks about Michael Myers with Officer Brackett in the house, and he's describing Michael Myers. The speech is, his speech is similarly and eerie. The way he feels about Michael Myers, the fear that he's instilled from him, and he refers to Michael Myers as it or the evil.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong.
And number 14, the eyes. Now I put this one specifically after the speeches because both times the eyes are talked about, they're within the speeches. But I wanted to give that one its own thing because it is its own thing. The speeches are one thing, but then the villain's eyes are another thing. And Robert Shaw in his speech talks about the eyes.
You know the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes. When he comes at you, doesn't seem to be living until he bites you. And those black eyes roll over white, and then you hear that terrible high-pitched screaming. The ocean turns red, and in spite of all the pounding and the hollering, they all come in and they rip you to pieces.
He is most scared of the shark in the eyes. And Donald Pleasance has the same commentary in his speech, where it is behind the mask, but it's the eyes.
I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
It is the eyes where its evil lurks. So both characters are afraid of the eyes. And finally, the big one, coming in for 15, the endings. Do you believe it? Are they the same? Could they have been the same and we didn't know it all this time? Yes. Halloween and Jaws have very similar endings. And what do I mean by the endings? Well, let's start off with Donald Pleasance on this one. I shot him 6 times. We hear that line multiple times. Michael Myers is shot at the end of Halloween 6 times by Dr. Loomis, Donald Pleasance. Now, I know that there's controversy between Halloween and Halloween 2, like that there's 7 shots in the one movie and 6 in the other. But according to the own character, his line was, I shot him 6 times. And in the original one, I think that's where you hear the 6 gunshots. But did you know that Martin Brody shot the shark 6 times as well before the shark blew up at the end of Jaws? Because that's something I wasn't really sure of. And when I was putting this whole comparison together, I wasn't even sure this was going to be on the list. But when I realized that Martin Brody shot at that shark after he put the oxygen tank and gets him on the 6th shot.
Blow up! Fire, you son of a...
I thought, what? Both characters have a similar death, being shot at with a gun at the end of each movie? Yes. And here's a bonus for you, because this one just makes me laugh. How about the end of Halloween 2? Michael Myers goes up in flames with Donald Pleasance. Oh, does that remind you of Jaws 2, where the shark goes in flames as well? So the first two movies, the character dies in similar fashion. In the original, it's by 6 gunshots. In the sequel, it's by a fire, by flames. The shark and Michael Myers burn. So that's it. That's all I got. Did you guys realize that Jaws and Halloween had all this in common? That Bruce and the Shape had so much in common? Because I sure as heck didn't. So here's a challenge for y'all in the comments. Is there something I missed? Is there something I forgot? I'd love to know. Let's see if there's 16, 17, 20 things that these franchise, that these villains, that these original movies have in common. Put it in the comments. Let me know. And now I could say it is officially Halloween time on my channel. And say goodbye to the summer and say goodbye to the sharks. Because we are in spook season.
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was.
Well, this is Johnny with Good Burger Reviews. I want you guys to know I enjoyed going over this topic. I'd love to hear all your opinions on these 15 things that I discovered. And don't forget to please like, subscribe, tap that notification bell, all that jazz. And stay scared of those sharks and Halloween serial killers as we roll into September.
Drove fast to the desert way, through silent seas of sand, feel time running through my hands, and the sun is burning bright, and the air says life is tight, and my brain says that someone dies when she shows me the endless lines. And if you're asking why, she said, look into the evil eye again. And if you're asking why, she said, look into the evil eye again. When are you coming down? Yes, the world you see is spinning round. Days are short and are lost and found, and the night is long at the burial ground. And if you're asking why, she said, look into the evil eye again. And if you're asking why, she said, look into the evil eye again. It's all the same, it's all for nothing, it's all to blame, it's all for nothing.